Ethan Walsh stepped out of the sleek black limousine and inhaled deeply, the air tinged with the scent of eucalyptus trees and distant memories. The sun beat down on the narrow street of his childhood town, a place he hadn't visited in over 20 years. Everything looked smaller now, the streets, the buildings, even the sky. It was supposed to be a quick detour after a corporate retreat nearby, but something had pulled him here, like an invisible thread tied to the deepest parts of his memory. At 38, Ethan was a name that echoed through boardrooms and financial publications alike. A self-made billionaire in the tech world, he was known for his sharp mind, ruthless business acumen, and cold efficiency. But behind the calculated smile and Armani suits was a little boy who once ran barefoot through these dusty lanes, chasing dreams and dragonflies. As he walked past the old brick library, a flash of red fabric caught his eye. He turned, and something strange stirred in his chest. A small woman, her back hunched with time, was sweeping the steps of a rundown grocery store. She wore a faded red sari, her gray hair tied in a loose bun, and though her face was turned away, there was something unmistakably familiar about her. He froze. Could it be? He approached slowly, cautiously. "Excuse me," he said gently. She turned. And his heart clenched. Her eyes, though aged and weary, still held the same warm sparkle he remembered. "Ma. Maya?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The broom slipped from her hands. "Ethan," she gasped. For a moment, the world paused. Time folded in on itself, and the billionaire and the old maid stared at each other, two souls separated by years but connected by something far deeper than blood. Maya had been the Walsh family's maid from the time Ethan was 6 until he was 15. His parents were often absent, busy with charity galas and social circles, leaving Maya to raise him like her own. She cooked his meals, bandaged his scraped knees, and told him bedtime stories when the thunder made him cry. She had a laugh like bells and hands that always smelled like cardamom and soap. When Ethan left for boarding school, she gave him a tiny cloth pouch filled with dried jasmine petals. To remember home, she had said. He never saw her again. His parents passed in an accident the next year, and he was thrust into a life of foster homes, scholarships, and a burning ambition to prove himself. Somewhere in the climb, he lost sight of the past. Until now. They sat on a cracked bench by the roadside as Maya poured him tea from an old thermos. She looked thinner, friendlier, her voice softer but still kind. "She never married," she said. After the Walsh family left the town, she worked odd jobs, cleaning, cooking, even begging on days when work was scarce. She lived in a tiny hut at the edge of town, made of tin sheets and prayers. "But why didn't you reach out?" Ethan asked, guilt thick in his throat. She smiled. "Because you had wings, Beta. And I didn't want to weigh them down." He stared at her, stunned. This woman had given him everything, love, warmth, a sense of safety, and he had forgotten her in his chase for success. That night, Ethan sat in his 5-star hotel suite but couldn't sleep. Maya's hut flashed in his mind, the leaking roof, the threadbare mat she slept on, the absence of running water. He couldn't let this be her story's end. The next morning, he returned to her with a car and a plan. At first, she resisted. "What would I do in your big city, with your big life?" she said. "I'm just an old woman." But Ethan held her hand. "You're not just an old woman. You're the reason I made it." He brought her to New York. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. He gave her the guest wing of his Manhattan penthouse, hired a nurse to care for her, and even got her a small indoor garden to tend. At night, she told him the same bedtime stories she once did, and he listened, now with eyes that understood what he'd once taken for granted. Word of Maya's story spread through media like wildfire. But Ethan refused interviews. "This is personal," he told reporters. But what he did next became a legacy. He opened a home called Maya's House, a sanctuary for elderly domestic workers with no family. Each woman who entered was treated with respect, given a room of her own, proper medical care, and most importantly, love. The foundation expanded to 3 cities in under a year. At the inauguration, Ethan stood on stage beside Maya. He wasn't wearing his usual business suit, but a simple kurta, as he had when he was a child. He looked out at the crowd and said, "I was raised by someone the world saw as invisible. She wiped my tears and gave me strength when no one else did. Today, I want the world to see her, to honor all the Mayas out there. Because we rise not just on our own merit, but on the shoulders of the silent heroes behind us." Maya wept. So did many in the audience. A year later, Maya passed away peacefully in her sleep. Her last words were, "My Ethan, he came back." She was buried in a small garden outside Maya's house, under a jasmine tree. Ethan visits her every week, sits by her grave, and reads her favorite poems. Sometimes, he brings kids from the foundation and tells them about the woman who taught him how to live. Because even billionaires need someone to remind them of what matters. In a world obsessed with status and speed, sometimes the greatest act of success is not in reaching the top, but in turning back and lifting the person who once held you when you were too small to stand on your own. Compassion doesn't require wealth, just memory, gratitude, and love. Never forget the people who made you who you are. Even if the world doesn't see them, make sure you always do.